Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Ben Chang, the program director for the Games and Simulation Arts and Sciences program at RPI. Um, let's see. I hope you can all hear me and my video is coming through okay. Um, really glad that you could all that you could join us this afternoon for talking about the GSAS program. And first, congratulations to all of you on your acceptance to RPI. Um, and So I'm going to be talking about game design and development at RPI. And yes, you can hear me. All right, fantastic. Um, let's see. And I'm going to talk about the curriculum, talk about some student work, some projects, different things that we do here in the program. And there will be time for questions, either about the GSAS program or other kinds of admissions questions you have as well. We'll have Melissa Johnson from the admissions office who will be able to field any questions that I can't answer. So during the presentation, if you've got any questions, just feel free to put them into the questions box or into the chat. If I don't get to them in the course of the presentation, I'll answer them when we get to the end. So, all right. So here we go. So first, just a little bit of context about the Games and Simulation Arts and Sciences degree at RPI. We're an interdisciplinary program. We believe that game design and development is something that needs to bring together a lot of different fields of study, a lot of different disciplines, different kinds of skills. As an interdisciplinary program, it's housed in the School of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences, where we cut across multiple departments in the School of Haas and also into the School of Science. We've got about 150, 160 students, and most of our students are dual majors, which is a really neat thing about the way that the curriculum at RPI across almost all the majors works is this capability to dual major between different things. GSAS as an interdisciplinary major is really explicitly designed to encourage dual majoring, as we'll see when we get into the curriculum. So things we'll be talking about today: faculty, curriculum, careers, like where our students go after they graduate, some examples of student work, some examples of faculty research, things that we're doing with entrepreneurship in the indie game development space, things that we do at the Game Developers Conference, and our Game Fest event. Things I won't be talking about: Cooking Mama Cook Star, which is there's been a lot of talk about on the internet. This is developed by a company called First Playable, who are downtown in Troy. I know many people are wondering where it is, if it's going to be released, because it was supposed to come out this week. And so I can't speak about that at all. Or address any of the speculations about when the release is going to be for Cooking Mama Cook Star. So I'm sorry for that for any of you who are eagerly looking for news on that game. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the faculty in the GSAS program. So as you can see, we work in multiple departments. So we have people in the cognitive science department, the arts department, communication and media department, science and technology studies department, and the computer science department. We're a mix of people who have academic backgrounds, professional backgrounds, industry backgrounds, working across a whole wide range of areas in games, ranging from AAA to indie games to games for change, to game studies, to experimental media art, cutting edge AI research. All kinds of things. So we look at games as something that's a scholarly academic field of research, and it's also a program that's about professional training. So you can find more information about all of the faculty and the faculty profiles on the website. The curriculum is designed around a core and concentration model. So every student in the program takes a sequence of courses called the Games and Simulation core courses. So these are courses in the fundamental elements of game design across multiple disciplines, and also emphasizing team-based game development. And then every student also chooses a concentration. So we have 6 formal concentrations: computer science, cognitive science, electronic arts, management, writing, and music. In some cases, students also find a kind of a custom concentration that they want to craft to work usually with a major that we haven't already set up a formal concentration for. And so in those cases, we'll try to work with you to find a way to make that work. So students officially choose one concentration. You're able to take classes in any of the concentrations, so you're not necessarily limited. Um, let's see, and the one thing that limits you from trying to like dual major and take like dual concentrations is simply the number of classes that you'd have to take to be able to do it. Mark asks, what happened to the website pages about the concentration? Let's see. Yes, so we just had a redesign of the whole website. So if you're not seeing the concentrations and curriculum listings up on the Haas website right now, you can always find them on the catalog page, which I can actually just paste into the chat for you, because this is something that will be useful in a lot of different ways. Now let me see if I can get back to, there we go. I'm still here. So I just want to share this link with everybody, catalog.rpi.edu. This is the official catalog. So for anything with the curriculum, whether it's for the GSAS program or any of the other majors or curriculum things, this is the ground truth source for all of that. So anything that you can't find on the sort of like front-facing websites for RPI, you can always find it in the catalog. I wanted to kind of go through some of the concentrations. I'm not going to go into all of them in depth just for the sake of time, but if you have questions about any of them in more detail, I can answer them afterwards. So this is what the course sequence looks like. In the first year, everybody takes Introduction to Game Design and Introduction to Game Programming. We separate those out because we think of game design as something that is not just about computer games and video games. So that also includes tabletop games, board game design, real-world games, alternate reality games, all different ways of thinking about game design, regardless of what the technology or the materials are that you're working with. Introduction to Game Programming is when you begin actually working on digital games. Art for Interactive Media is a foundations course in art and design, both training your eye and some basic techniques so that everybody has a kind of a foundation in the visual side of what you need to make games. Similarly, Introduction to Game Storytelling is a foundation in writing, in story, in principles of narrative design that really everybody should know as a game maker. History and Culture of Games studies games going back thousands of years throughout human history, all the way up to the kind of impact that games have in culture and society today. Game Development 1 and 2 are a 2-course sequence in team-based game development. So in these 2 courses, students in all the different concentrations all come together in one large class. We form teams with all of the different disciplines combined. In Game Development 1, you do a series of very short projects, each with a different game engine, a different set of technologies, programming languages, and design prompts that you have to work with. Game Development 2 is a full semester single project, which is a project where you learn more about how to manage a team and manage a project across a much more ambitious kind of an effort. Experimental game design, in this class, we figure, well, at this point, now you know how to make games. You know what the rules are. It's time to break them. And we ask what you can do to push games beyond the limits of how we think of the medium today. And then finally, the GSAS capstone is a senior project. So this can be a game, it can be a research project, it can be something that dives into the technical side of games, into the aesthetic side of games, into trying to create something as a very polished piece that you would go and try to publish. There's a range of different possibilities there. So in addition to the core, everybody chooses a concentration. This is the computer science concentration. As you can see, it has many of the same classes that are required for the computer science major. This is deliberate. It's to make it so that it's relatively easy to complete a dual major between GSAS and computer science. There are a few classes in here that are specific to the GSAS major, particularly game AI, advanced computer graphics, and then game architecture, where we look at the really the core of how you build a game engine like Unity or Unreal or other kinds of engines like that from the ground up. The electronic arts concentration, this concentration would align with the electronic arts major. So you could dual major in GSAS and electronic arts. This is a combination of arts foundations in traditional drawing and 2D imaging, and then an emphasis either in 3D modeling and animation or in further study in 2D graphics. So in the animation track, we teach 3D modeling, we teach 3D animation, visual effects, experimental animation in 2D, animation production, which is another full semester production course, 3D technical direction, which focuses on topics like rigging and scripting, game animation, which focuses on how you would take animation principles and then apply them specifically to the needs that you have in animating for games, and then lighting, rendering, cinematography, which, as it sounds, focuses on making things look beautiful and bringing elements of filmmaking and cinematography and camera work into working in games. The music concentration, this one aligns with the music major, so you could dual major in GSAS and music. And this is a combination of courses in music theory, which is what the music and sound 1 and 2 sequence are, and music and technology 1 and 2, which are working on with computer music and composition. We also teach sound recording and a class specifically in doing music for games called designing musical games. So you think about this as, of course, games like Guitar Hero, and also different ways of doing algorithmic composition to make soundtracks, say, that would adapt themselves based on what the player is doing. The writing concentration, this one focuses on writing and narrative design for games. So in these courses, what you'll learn is the basics of good writing skill, good wordsmithing, how to tell stories effectively, how to construct good narratives, and then how to adapt them for nonlinear formats. In this class, you'd work on writing for all kinds of scales of games. So looking at the way you would write for small solo indie projects, visual novels or twine games or very personally oriented narrative kinds of storytelling. And then also how you would work as a writer on a AAA scale large project. So think about like a Skyrim scale project or Fortnite or one of those, what the work of a writer is on those kinds of games. There are 2 more concentrations in management and in cognitive science, which I'm going to skip over, unfortunately, just for the sake of time, but I'm happy to answer some questions if you have them afterwards. Because I want to share with you all some examples of the kinds of games that students make. This is a very hands-on, practice-oriented program. You're making games really from day one, as soon as you enter the program, all the way up through when you complete it. These range from very short things that you might make in a single day exercise, in-class exercise or game jam, all the way up to games that you might work on for a full semester, a full year, possibly longer. We work on a whole range of different kinds of games, 2D, 3D, things that involve virtual reality, augmented reality, building custom interfaces. Up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the Game Development Club's arcade cabinet that they keep in the student union. And put student-made games on. In the lower right-hand corner, you can see a project that involved a kind of a trapeze harness that the player straps themselves into with the virtual reality headset on. So you have a kind of like a full bodily floating flying experience in VR. Let's see, and I'm gonna show you just a couple of videos. So that project was called Mystery Medium by a group called Bosscat Games. So that was made in the experimental game design class. It's a it's a mystery game for multiple players. One player wears an HTC Vive headset, and then everybody else in the room has this corkboard for pinning up evidence. And the person wearing the headset, so their role is they're a psychic, and so they can see the crime scene, and they can see sort of like psychic vibrations that come off of the photographs and the notes and the evidence pieces. And then what everyone else does is they choose pieces of evidence, put them up on the corkboard in different arrangements, and try to connect them together. They're a little RFID tag. Sensors on the back of each one of those, and then a sensor on the back of the board. So what you pin up on the board changes what the person in the VR headset is seeing, and then they have to kind of like describe what clues or visions they're having to help you rearrange things on the board to find to solve the mystery. The other example I just want to show you real quick is called IO Interloper, which was nominated for Best Student Games, as a finalist for the Best Student Game Award at the Independent Games Festival a couple of years ago. And the group that made this are called Dang. You can find their website here, dang.computer. They're now an indie studio working downtown in Troy on a game that should be coming up pretty soon called Boomerang X. But I'm just going to show you a little bit of this trailer. So IO Interloper is it's a surveillance and hacking game. So you play as a hacker. You're trying to break into this company headquarters and try to make off with a briefcase with something in it, a MacGuffin, or the plans for a MacGuffin, I guess. And you do this by trying to slowly take control of things like the surveillance cameras in the building, to shoulder surf over people's cubicles, to find the passwords for things that they've written down, and then break into the networks, and then get control of a drone that you can fly around to pick up other things, and this like whole kind of sequence of elaborate events. As you saw in the first slide, the faculty work on a wide range of different research areas, ranging from things like games for health to multi-user VR concerts to kind of like cutting-edge game AI, deep learning, conversational agents kind of research. I want to show you an example of just one faculty-led project. This is called, let's see, the World of Plankton. that's led by Professor Kathleen Ruiz, and it's part of a sort of larger initiative that she calls the Eco Games Initiative, which is making games that have to do with ecology and eco resilience. So the world of plankton and the aquatic messenger, these are projects that are all about uh, Lake George and the aquatic ecosystem in that lake. So in the aquatic messenger, you can see the flora and fauna in the lake down to the microscopic scale, particularly with this sort of like understanding the importance of plankton and other microscopic organisms in the ecosystem, and the kinds of threats that this very fragile ecosystem faces. And you can also travel forward and backward in time so that you can see uh, how it has changed over millennia. So I want to say just a few words about what people do after they graduate. So our students go on and work at all kinds of companies. A number of them go and work at companies in our local area. The largest one is Vicarious Visions, which I believe is probably the largest game studio in the state of New York. They're an Activision studio. Um, WB Games New York. So this is a company downtown in Troy that's now part of Warner Brothers. Mad Glory is a company up in Saratoga that was recently acquired by PUBG. And First Playable Productions um, is is a game studio that makes educational games and also games for made games for the Nintendo DS or the Switch, and many other sort of third-party IP projects downtown in Troy. And then Valiant Studios is a relatively new, so it's what's maybe called like triple I indie studio. So this is founded by Kartik and Guha Bala, who are the brothers who founded Vicarious Visions. So maybe I guess maybe about 5 years ago they left and founded a new studio called Valiant, and they've been in kind of stealth mode building up for a game that I know absolutely nothing about. It's completely secretive. All the students keep going and working there. Nobody will tell me anything about what they're doing. But I know they have a publishing deal with EA, and that it's going to be amazing, whatever it is. But let's see, students work for go to work for all kinds of AAA companies, including EA, Activision, Epic Games, Amazon Game Studios, 2K, uh, Bungie. They work for places like Google and Apple. One of the interesting things about what our major, and particularly the kind of like dual major alignments, is it opens up a kind of a wide range of careers, both on sort of like the front end of doing game design and also lower down in the stack, back end working on the underlying technology. So we also have students who will go and work at places like Apple, working on their kind of core augmented reality technology. And we have students who work at a range of smaller indie studios. People who have gone to work at That Game Company, at other indie studios like Giant Sparrow, and ones who have gone and often founded their own games studios as well. The entrepreneurship and community engagement of the program is also a big part of what we do. So we are what's called a digital gaming hub, or center of excellence in digital game development, which is a designation from the state of New York's Empire State Development Corporation, basically the economic development department of the state government. What we're charged with is, along with RIT and with NYU, our three schools are sort of charged with trying to build bridges between higher education and the games industry in the state, with the ultimate goal of trying to support and grow game development in the state of New York. So that includes working with K through 12 programs, with like middle school and high school after school programs and summer camps. It means working with high school teachers, finding ways of connecting research coming out of our labs into industry. We run and support different incubators. And we also work very closely with community organizations, with the International Game Developers Association chapter, and local maker spaces. So we do a whole range of activities. You can find more about those on our website, gamehub.rpi.edu. I'm going to talk about just a few of these. In the community and incubator kinds of space. One of them is Game Fest. So this is an annual event that we host at RPI. We've been doing this for probably something like 15 years now. It started off as the kind of like end of the year little showcase for our students, and then has grown into kind of a multi-school regional showcase where we bring students from all around the Northeast to come and show off their games, and compete for prizes. We've had this at all kinds of venues. We've had it at the Experimental Media and Performing Arts Center here on campus. We had it last year down at the Capitol Center in Albany, which is the brand new convention center. We had it in the gymnasium one year, but it's always a really exciting way of just like bringing together all this energy and creativity around games. Some of the speakers that we've had at Game Fest: James Portnow, Teresa Duringer, Emily Short, Eric Zimmerman, Sam Barlow, Zach Barth, Lee Alexander, Jake Elliott, and Tomas Kamenzi of Cardboard Computer did Kentucky Route Zero, Richard Rouse, and many more. So it's a really fun event that we get real visionary speakers to come in, panelists, and hundreds of students and people from different companies for a really exciting festival of celebration of game making. We also go out to the Game Developers Conference every year. So we've usually bring a yeah, every year like an increasingly large contingent of students who come out, present their games in the expo, compete in the narrative summit, and present posters in that part of the competition. Um, and this is a sort of like a really fantastic opportunity to get connected with really the entire games industry all in one place. I'm going to show you this slide. I'm sad because this didn't happen because the Game Developers Conference was postponed this year. It would have been in the middle of March in San Francisco, and it was unfortunately canceled because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But this is what was going to be there. It's the first ever New York State Pavilion, which would have had schools and companies from all across the state in this kind of massive booth space in the middle of the GDC show, which is it's a pretty large show with something like 25,000 attendees for a week in the Moscone Center. So hoping this will now just be postponed until 2021, and so we would set up these kiosks with students to show off their games from all of our schools there. Okay, and then the last thing that I want to talk about is the Level Up State Summer Program. So this is an entrepreneurship program. What we do with the GSAS program is we teach you how to make games and how to think critically about games. If you want to go and publish games today, of course, anybody can do that. There's this amazing democratization of game making. Probably a number of you in this chat have already, technically shipped games. All right, so you probably already made things and, put them on the web, whether on platforms like itch.io or the App Store, or other kinds of places. So this is one of the really exciting things about games, is that there's so much opportunity and so much openness. If you are interested in pursuing a career as an indie developer, self-publishing your own game, starting your own studio, this is what the Level Up State program is there for. It's to give you the additional business training to not just make fantastic games, but also make a business that will support you making those games. So this is an 8-week intensive. It's not part of the academic program, and it's really more like a business entrepreneur boot camp. So we get people who are like world-renowned experts who have done this a lot and helped other companies go through this process, to come in and give this kind of intensive training on what's involved in setting up your business, how you think about marketing, how you think about business formation, how you think about your profit and loss sheets and your budget and expensing, and how you have to plan out the launch of your game and what your support plan is afterwards, and all of those aspects that we often push to the side while we're just working on the technical problem solving and just being excited about the game making process. So this is open to RPI students and also RPI alumni, and also just to indie developers anywhere in the state of New York. So I'm going to show you our show reel from last summer. This is the trailers from the teams that went through in summer of 2019. So this is about half of these are RPI students. And the other half are local indie developers in Troy, in the capital region, who went through the program too.